Hello, welcome to DigitalUrim. In the previous video, we explored identity and access management, or IAM. We learned that many modern attacks don't begin by breaking systems. They begin by using valid credentials. An attacker doesn't need to force entry if someone already left the door unlocked. And that leads to an important question. If an attacker logs in using valid credentials, how do we detect them? Because even when access looks legitimate, it always leaves evidence. And that evidence has a name: logs. Today, we are entering one of the most important territories in professional cybersecurity: logs, events, and digital evidence. This lesson is not just about definitions. It's about understanding how analysts detect suspicious activity, even when attackers appear legitimate. Because remember this, without logs, there is no history. And without history, there is no investigation. A log is an automatic record created by a system when an action occurs. Every time something happens inside a system, it can be recorded: opening a file, logging into a system, logging out, changing a password, attempting unauthorized access. All of these actions can generate logs. But here's the key point. A log is not an opinion. It is not an interpretation. It is not a summary. A log is raw evidence. It is an objective record. No emotions, no assumptions, only data. Think of logs like a digital security camera. A camera doesn't stop a crime, but it allows investigators to reconstruct what happened. And in cybersecurity, that is exactly what we need: to reconstruct the story. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine a user named Maria logs into her computer. The system could generate a log like this: user, Maria, action, login, status, success, time, 08/2015. At first glance, this looks simple, but in reality, it is extremely powerful, because this small record contains critical information: who performed the action, what action was performed, when it happened, and whether it succeeded. Now imagine hundreds, thousands, millions of records like this, each one representing an action, each one forming part of a larger story. Logs are not just text, they are digital narratives. Now let's introduce another fundamental concept: events. An event is something that happens inside a system. It is the action itself. Examples of events include a login, a failed login, a file deletion, a program execution, a system error. Each of these is an event. But here is the critical difference. The event is the action. The log is the record of that action. Event equals what happened. Log equals the evidence of what happened. This difference is essential, because during investigations, we analyze events recorded in logs. Now we move to the next level: alerts. An alert occurs when a system detects something that may be dangerous. Not every event generates an alert, but some events do. For example, multiple failed login attempts, access from an unusual location, an attempt to access administrative privileges. When these situations occur, the system generates an alert. Here is the important part. Logs record activity. Events represent actions. But alerts demand attention. In real-world environments, analysts do not manually read every log. That would be impossible. Instead, automated systems detect patterns and generate alerts. This prepares the ground for tools we will study later, such as SIAM systems. Let's explore a realistic scenario. An employee logs into the system at 8 a.m. from the office. Nothing unusual. Everything appears normal. The system generates this log: user, Carlos action, login, status, success time, 08/20. Location, office. Everything looks legitimate, but now imagine this. At 10 a.m., the same user logs in from another country. 2 hours later, different location, different context. The system generates another log: user, Carlos action, login status, success, time, 10, location, Russia. Now here is the critical question. Is it possible to travel to another country in 2 hours? No. Which means something doesn't make sense. This situation is called impossible travel, and it is one of the most common indicators of compromised accounts. Logs reveal patterns like this, not because logs speak, but because data tells a story. And this is only the beginning. So far, we explored what logs are and how they begin to tell a story. But in the next part, we will step into real Windows logs, explore critical events such as failed logins and privilege assignments, and you will begin to see how analysts detect real attacks. We continue in the next part.